Okay, guys, I was wondering if Messi or Ronaldo is richer, so I went ahead and looked it up. Now, I'm not really asking if you are a Ronaldo fan or a Messi fan. Today, we're going to talk about who's richer. So we're going to go over how they earned it, how they built it, how they've held on to it, and also what the standings are as of today. So let's go ahead and get started. So the first question is, how much are they worth right now? Cristiano Ronaldo and Lionel Messi. So this information I'm pulling off of public data. A lot of these guys are involved with private companies, so the earning and the equity is not public information, but a lot of analysts put Ronaldo at about $1.4 billion as of 2026, and that's according to the Bloomberg Billionaire Index. And a big part of that was in 2025, Ronaldo signed with the Al Nassr football team. Supposedly that contract was worth about $400 million alone. Now, if we look at Lionel Messi, his current net worth is estimated to be about $850 million. In fact, some analysts put him between $850 and $950 million. So he's right there at the billionaire status, and a lot of analysts say that he's probably going to cross that mark in late 2026, maybe even early 2027. So as of right now, Ronaldo is worth about $500 million more than Messi, but the most interesting part of the story is how both of them got there. So between Messi and Ronaldo, who's earning more money right now? So for this particular question, this one's not really even close because Ronaldo is supposedly earning about $275 million every year when you factor in all of his various revenue streams. So that definitely makes him the highest paid athlete on the planet right now. In fact, supposedly his football contract with Al Nassr can reach $241 million for the year, and that's with signing bonuses, performance incentives, and commercial payments. Now, if we jump on over to Lionel Messi, he earns about $130 million per year, and that consists of his football contracts, endorsements, and various other business ventures that he's running. A lot of that comes from his Inter Miami soccer deal, so supposedly he gets a guaranteed $20 million per year. However, with various bonuses, that could increase to $70 or $80 million per year. So as you can see, Ronaldo earns more than double Lionel Messi as of the 2026 year. And that gap basically has to do with one major decision that Ronaldo chose, and that was going to Saudi Arabia to play and taking advantage of those large contracts and tax-free at that. And if you look at Messi, he decided to go to Miami for a lifestyle play, but with that, it did take a bit of a pay cut in comparison to Ronaldo. So which one of these two guys made smarter contract decisions in their career? So this is where it gets pretty interesting, because in 2022, when Ronaldo decided to go to Saudi Arabia and play for Al Nassr, a lot of people said that he was making a mistake for his legacy, but looking at it from a financial perspective, it was probably one of the best decisions that Ronaldo had made. Part of that is because Saudi Arabia has a large tax-free contract structure, so that means that he keeps almost every dollar that he earns with that large contract. If he would have stuck around in Europe, it's likely he would have had to pay 45 or even 50% of that salary. Now, if we look at Messi, his contract in Inter Miami was structured a little bit differently. Part of that is that he holds a no-cost equity option in Inter Miami, and that is exercisable at his retirement. He also earns Apple TV and Apple shares, and that's directly linked to his participation in the MLS. So as you can see, Lionel Messi didn't just take it for the salary. It was partly to build long-term ownership in the league and also build out equity in American soccer, which could be worth significantly more in the coming decades. So as you can see, both of these guys made really smart football decisions, but for two completely different reasons. As you can see, Ronaldo maximized immediate cash, and Messi is trying to build up long-term equity in the American League. So over the next decade, we're going to be able to see who made a smarter decision. Now, both of these rich guys are extremely famous, but which one of them built a bigger brand off of the soccer field? So this is one of the clearest differences between Messi and Ronaldo. As you know, Ronaldo built up the CR7 brand, which is a massive consumer empire. The CR7 brand includes hotels that are operating in Lisbon, Madeira, Madrid, New York, and Marrakesh. He also has clothing and underwear brands, fragrance brands, fitness gyms. So all of these are real businesses that are generating real revenue, and that's going to continue whether or not Ronaldo's playing on the field. And if we look at his Nike deal, supposedly that's worth $1 billion, which is a lifetime deal. In fact, supposedly that is the most valuable sports endorsement in history. Now, if we look at Messi, his off-field businesses are smaller, but they're definitely growing. In fact, he owns and backs various luxury hotels in a lot of European popular tourist destinations. And if we look at MIM Hotel Group, they maintain high-value residential properties in Miami and in Spain. He also has various endorsements from a lot of large companies like Pepsi, Adidas, MasterCard, Budweiser, Gatorade. Through all of those endorsement deals, it generates probably about $70 million per year alone. So as you can see, Ronaldo wins on the off-field brand comparison. In fact, his CR7 brand is is much bigger and much more diversified than anything Messi has done. Now, with social media being such a powerful force in business, who has a larger social media presence and worth? So this is an angle that a lot of people don't think about when they're comparing Messi and Ronaldo financially, but these numbers are staggering. So if we look at Ronaldo, he has about 665 million Instagram followers. So he is the most followed person on Instagram, more than anybody else on earth. Now, if you want to get a sponsored Instagram post from him, supposedly it costs between $2.5 million and $3.5 million alone. So if he does a measly 50 sponsored posts throughout the year, that could generate an extra $125 to $175 million for Ronaldo. Now, if we look at Messi, he has less followers than Ronaldo, but he still has 500 million followers on Instagram, which is a huge amount. And a lot of analysts put his post rate between $1.5 and $2.5 million for a sponsored post. He also ends up posting less than Ronaldo, so that in itself shows that Messi's income from social media is probably much less than Ronaldo. So if we look at social media as a financial asset, Ronaldo definitely beats out Messi just by follower count and then also revenue bringing in every year. So what about real estate and physical assets? Who has more, Messi or Ronaldo? So both of these rich guys have extraordinary real estate portfolios between the two of them, but at completely different scales. So if we look at Messi, he has supposedly $300 million worth of real estate across various high-end luxury areas, including Barcelona, Miami, Ibiza, and his home country, Argentina. So his property focus is more on long-term appreciation in high-demand luxury markets rather than speculative turnover. Now, if we look at Ronaldo, his real estate portfolio is much larger and much more spread out. So it goes from Portugal to Spain, United Kingdom, and the United States. He also has a collection of luxury cars, supposedly worth about $20 million. So a lot of analysts say that his physical asset base exceeds what Messi has built up over the years. So both of these guys have had really long careers, long and successful. So who's earned more over their entire career? So this is an interesting way to compare these two because they have careers that are spanning decades, and both of them have been at the top of their game basically at the same time throughout their entire career. So a lot of analysts say that Messi has earned about $1.6 billion just from his salary alone over his career. Now, if we look at Ronaldo, a lot of analysts say that Ronaldo has made about $550 million from his salary alone over those 23 years. However, his endorsements and his business deals have been significantly higher than Messi's over that same time period. And that mostly comes from the large Nike deal and then also from his CR7 company. In fact, Forbes is estimating that Ronaldo is likely to surpass $2 billion in net worth before he retires. So that's kind of interesting that Messi has earned close to double what Ronaldo earned in his salary. And a lot of that is because of his large Barcelona contract. However, Ronaldo's off-field income has surpassed that of Messi's. So where did the two of these rich guys come from? Where did they get their start? So the interesting thing is both of these guys grew up without wealth. And when you consider that, it makes it even more remarkable what they've built up over the years. So if we look at Messi, he was born in Rosario, Argentina, into a working class family. Supposedly his father was working in a steel factory there. In fact, the story is that his family couldn't afford the growth hormone therapy that Messi needed as a child. That's when Barcelona stepped in and decided to pay for it when they signed Messi at the age of 13. That was part of his transfer deal. Now, if we look at Ronaldo, he grew up in Portugal in Funchal, Madeira. Supposedly his father was a kitman and his mother was a cook. And supposedly his family was so poor that Ronaldo remembers going to bed hungry as a child. So he left home as a teenager to pursue football without a penny to his name. So that's pretty interesting about the both of these folks. Both of them ended up being the top of their game. In fact, two of the most popular football players ever, and they both came from pretty much poverty. Neither one of them had financial advantages. Neither one had industry connections. They built everything from raw talent, hard work, and smart decisions over 2 decades. So since Ronaldo is worth so much more than Messi, is there anything that Messi beats out Ronaldo financially? I would say the answer to this is going to lie in his contract with the Inter Miami, but we're going to have to wait until Messi retires because he does have that no-cost equity option. Now, if you know anything about soccer, the MLS soccer is growing really fast. In fact, Inter Miami's valuation has skyrocketed since Messi got involved, and a lot of analysts say that his stake in the MLS could be worth hundreds of millions of dollars by the time he retires in a few years. So while he's still earning income, that equity option is building equity year by year. Also, in a funny turn of events, supposedly Messi had turned down a $1 billion offer to play in Saudi Arabia like Ronaldo. However, he turned that down to go to Miami. So whether or not that was a good financial decision, we're going to have to wait until Lionel Messi decides to retire and exercise that option. Also, there are a lot of financial analysts that agree with Lionel Messi, saying that his stake in the MLS is going to be worth way more than had he taken the contract in Saudi Arabia. So the final question, which one of these guys are richer, Messi or Ronaldo? So based on everything that I was able to find, Ronaldo wins this comparison right now. And it's not really that close either. With Ronaldo's net worth at about $1.4 billion, Lionel Messi's net worth is about $500 million behind. Ronaldo also became the first football billionaire in 2025. He also earns more than double what Messi earns on a yearly basis just by his salary. His social media empire generates more than a lot of television stations make every year. And finally, with his CR7 business, it's a genuine consumer-based business that's going to continue growing year by year. But either way you look at it, both of these guys really became extremely successful on the field, off the field. Even though Messi is behind by a supposed $500 million, his net worth is still a staggering amount in hundreds of millions of dollars. And when you look at both of these guys coming from poverty in various other countries, it's not really who lost, because I would say that both of these guys had definitely won in life. So off the field, who do you think wins, Lionel Messi or Cristiano Ronaldo? Leave a comment below, let the rest of us know, and I'll see you on the next video.